Hello everyone and welcome back to Improved Version, a sanctuary where we share profound knowledge on holistic personal development through the timeless wisdom found in great books. In a world that constantly demands our attention, we often find ourselves searching for meaning in philosophy, psychology, or the biographies of great historical figures. However, today, we are going to embark on a vastly different journey. We are going to step away from the human-centric narrative and explore a highly unique subject that holds surprising reflections on our own existence. Today, we delve into the deeply fascinating concepts presented in a book we can affectionately refer to as The Wisdom of Wolves. As you immerse yourself in these insights, you will likely be profoundly surprised to discover that the society of wolves is nothing like the terrifying stereotypes we have been taught. For centuries, popular culture, fairy tales, and Hollywood have painted the wolf as a dark, murderous, and inherently cruel creature, a bloodthirsty beast lurking in the shadows of the wild jungle. But the truth is entirely different. Beneath that rugged, wild exterior lies a simple yet immensely powerful way of life. The wolf pack is a society rich in deep emotion, empathy, and unwavering compassion. The guiding principles of wolves can teach us humanity's most vital, forgotten lessons. They can teach us how to truly live, how to properly raise our children, how to communicate with absolute authenticity, and how to exercise genuine leadership. In fact, amidst our modern, stressful, suffocating, and often aimless urban lives filled with digital distractions and endless anxieties, these majestic creatures from the heart of nature can offer us an incredible source of strength, solace, and vital inspiration for survival. To understand this paradigm shift, we must look at the fascinating journey of the author of this insightful work. She was once a highly successful, stable lawyer earning a very lucrative salary. From the outside, she had the perfect life. But one day, while standing in the middle of a tense courtroom, deeply immersed in yet another bitter litigation, a profound realization suddenly struck her. She looked around and asked herself why she was spending her fleeting life facing the deceit, the manipulation, and the exhausting complexities of corporate work day in and day out. She was constantly arguing, calculating, and fighting with others over trivial material things. She asked herself, "Do I really want my life to end here, trapped in the cycle of stress?" In a moment of ultimate courage, she decided to walk away from the American dream. She gave up her prestigious job, applied for an internship, and became a humble intern at a wolf sanctuary in Indiana. That single decision altered the trajectory of her entire life. She eventually embarked on a long, arduous, and beautiful journey into the freezing, untamed wilderness of Minnesota. In this remote landscape, close, daily contact with wild wolves became her new normal. Having gained countless, invaluable experiences observing these magnificent animals in their natural habitat, she meticulously documented their stories and the profound philosophies she learned from them. Her work serves as a gift from nature, acting as a mirror reflecting our own human souls. It helps us not only to understand the wolves through their haunting, beautiful howling in the wilderness at night, but also forces us to wonder what we can learn from these expert friends of the wild forest. The very first and perhaps most striking lesson we can learn from wolves is how to nurture deep family love and how to raise children. Have you ever stopped to wonder why, out of the millions of animal species on this planet, dogs have become man's closest and most loyal companion? According to extensive archaeological and genetic studies, somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago, our ancient human ancestors actively chose to domesticate wolves rather than apes or monkeys. This is a fascinating choice, especially considering that primates possess a much higher level of cognitive intelligence and tool-using ability than wolves. The reason behind this choice is rooted in the heart. Humans chose wolves because wolves possess an incredibly high level of emotional intelligence. Above all else, they are fiercely affectionate creatures who naturally put their family and their community far above their own selfish interests. Over the course of time, through a natural domestication process spanning thousands of years, selected wolf breeds evolved alongside humans, eventually becoming the beloved dogs we share our homes with today. When the author spent her days observing a pack of wild wolves living together, she consistently noticed an atmosphere of deep harmony, relaxation, and profound love among them. When they are not out hunting for survival, the pack is incredibly playful. The wolf cubs are allowed to roam freely, playfully frolicking not just with their biological parents, but with their siblings, and even their aunts and uncles. In a wolf pack, all members take responsibility for the youth, despite the brutal, demanding schedule required to survive in the wild. Adult wolves absolutely always make time to play with their cubs. When playing with the young ones, the massive, powerful adult wolves will even intentionally lose wrestling matches, just to make the cubs feel happy, strong, and more confident in their developing abilities. This is an incredibly subtle, skillful, and brilliant approach to education and emotional development. It beautifully mirrors the advice found in modern parenting psychology, specifically echoing the sentiments found in books like Even Busy Dads Can Be Good Dads. The core message is that actively playing with your child, getting down on their level, and making them feel victorious is the absolute best way to inspire them and build unshakable self-confidence in young, developing minds. The way wolves raise their young, with infinite patience, love, and constant companionship, is a standard of parenting that many of us in modern human society have not yet truly achieved. Even more commendable is the wolf's concept of community parenting. Caring for the offspring is never solely the stressful, isolating responsibility of the biological wolf parents. Rather, it is the shared joy and duty of the entire pack. Wolf cubs grow up completely surrounded by the warm, loving energy of a unified group, knowing that they always have a vast family and a protective community by their side. This environment is exactly what nurtures the true nature of the wolf, forging creatures that are physically strong and resilient, yet also deeply full of emotion, empathy, and compassion. Wolves are remarkably perceptive creatures when it comes to understanding what true, unconditional love really is. A wolf is always ready to make the ultimate sacrifice for its family. The author recounts a deeply touching, cinematic story about a specific pack of wolves living in the Lamar Valley that perfectly illustrates this. One day, a crucial adult female wolf from this pack was suddenly ambushed and viciously attacked by a rival, highly aggressive group known as the Molly Pack. She was completely surrounded, outnumbered, and in grave, mortal danger. Watching from a distance, a young female wolf from her family, barely 2 years old, realized what was happening. Without a single second of hesitation, this young girl fearlessly charged straight into the terrifying encirclement. The young wolf knew her own strengths. She knew she was the quickest, most agile runner in her entire pack, and she knew every hidden nook, cranny, and escape route of the valley by heart. She deliberately used that speed advantage to bait and distract the entire Molly pack, drawing their aggressive attention entirely onto herself. By risking her own life, she allowed her injured teammate the precious seconds needed to retreat to safety. After a grueling, terrifying chase, both females eventually made it back home alive. That intense event is a flawless demonstration of how a wolf pack embodies solidarity and an absolute willingness to sacrifice for one another. In some even more extreme situations documented by researchers, there have been wolves that have actually made the ultimate sacrifice, throwing their own bodies into the jaws of danger to protect their kin, remaining forever on their motherland so that their family could live on. These heroic actions are not merely driven by cold, biological survival instincts. Instead, they demonstrate the deep, profound affection and the noble, almost spiritual spirit of sacrifice inherent in wolves. Within the intricate structure of the wolf family, the members always live together in close-knit relationships founded on deep mutual respect. This peaceful coexistence is largely due to the incredibly consistent and clear educational approach maintained among all the adults in the group. The author once observed a fascinating scene that highlights this. She watched a pack of wolves moving purposefully through the dense forest. More than 10 adult wolves walked in a serious, orderly, and focused fashion at the front. However, trailing far behind them, a little wolf cub was playfully frolicking, dawdling, messing around with sticks, and walking completely out of sync with the urgent rhythm of the rest of the pack. The first time the cub lagged too far behind, none of the adult wolves growled, barked, or aggressively punished the child. Instead, the entire pack simply stopped walking. They all turned and waited patiently in absolute silence. When the young cub caught up, it continued to sharpen its claws on trees and goof off, falling behind again. The whole flock, displaying incredible patience, stopped and waited for a second time. But on the third attempt, seeing that the wolf cub stubbornly refused to change its disruptive behavior, all the adult wolves enacted a profound lesson. Without a single sound of anger, they collectively turned their backs and began to leave in unison. Disappearing into the tree line, the wolf cub, suddenly realizing it was being left behind, became terrified. It ran frantically to catch up with its family, and from that moment on, it fell perfectly into line and never kept anyone waiting again. The silent, unified method of education employed by wolves gives us human beings so much to ponder regarding our own parenting styles. In many modern human families, parents often suffer from a severe lack of consensus on how to raise their children. One parent might be a strict disciplinarian who always wants to control everything, while the other parent tends to be far more lenient, constantly giving in to the children's whims. To complicate matters further, grandparents often quietly break the established household rules. They might secretly sneak their grandchildren unhealthy snacks, completely disregarding the nutritional boundaries and disciplinary guidelines painstakingly set by the parents. This constant inconsistency creates psychological loopholes that intelligent children will quickly learn to exploit. When their desires or demands are not met by one strict person, children will naturally learn to manipulate the situation, seeking out the more lenient family members to get exactly what they want. Clearly, humans desperately need to learn from the wolves how to become a unified, cohesive entity within a family structure. Unity and perseverance in every aspect of raising a child are not achieved through coldness, physical punishment, or loud scolding. True discipline is achieved through unwavering consistency and absolute adult consensus. Furthermore, wolves also absolutely amaze human observers with their beautiful ability to nurture deep affection through daily bonding rituals. Every single day without fail, all the wolves in a pack, from the oldest, battle-scarred adult to the youngest, clumsiest cub, spend dedicated time grooming each other. They patiently lick each other's fur to clean wounds and remove parasites. They lie together to sunbathe in the warm light, and they engage in joyful, communal play. These actions may seem like simple animal behaviors, but they are actually a highly sophisticated, special language of love. These rituals help them continuously strengthen their mutual trust, lower their cortisol levels, and physically express their deep devotion to each other. In particular, the iconic image of wolves howling together on high mountain peaks under the glow of a full moon is widely misunderstood. While human folklore has often associated this howling with something eerie, supernatural, and frightening for the wolves, it is actually a deeply joyous and sacred ritual. This communal howling symbolizes a profound sense of family and belonging. It is a moment when even the tiniest wolf cubs tilt their heads back to harmonize their small voices with the powerful calls of their elders and a shared musical activity. This beautiful chorus creates an unbreakable connection between their bodies and souls. Such rituals are the invisible, golden threads that connect, nurture, and maintain the impenetrable unity within the wolf pack. Conversely, when we look at modern human society, we see a tragic reality. We are gradually losing the grounding power of daily ritual. Unlike wolves who actively prioritize daily, physical actions to show affection, many modern humans are completely disconnected. These days, family members living in the same house often only interact through hurried, emotionally devoid text messages. A shocking Google survey conducted in recent years revealed a heartbreaking statistic about modern family dynamics. It showed that 80% of daily parent-child conversations typically end within a mere 3 minutes. Furthermore, these brief interactions are rarely about emotions or dreams. Instead, they revolve entirely around stressful, transactional questions such as whether tuition fees have been paid, what chores need doing, and what scores the child received on their latest school test. Meanwhile, deeper, nourishing bonding rituals such as sharing an umbrella in the rain, reading a book together before bed, taking a quiet evening walk, or simply spending 10 uninterrupted minutes listening to a loved one without offering any judgment or unsolicited advice are becoming exceedingly rare. Therefore, we see an epidemic of loneliness where many families today live under the exact same roof, eat from the same fridge, yet remain entirely emotionally distant, living as mere roommates rather than a pack. Consider how we treat our traditional holidays, such as the Lunar New Year or Tet. In the past, this was a deeply spiritual, special occasion rich with meaningful rituals and ceremonies that humanity specifically developed to pause time and strengthen bonds with family and community. It involved everything from cleaning the family home together in unity to painstakingly making traditional foods like banchan, to lighting incense to honor ancestors, and warmly visiting neighbors. But too many people today, the modern holiday has been stripped of its soul. Tet is often viewed merely as a stressful formality, a heavy financial responsibility, an exhausting opportunity for relatives to show off and boast about their wealth, or simply a chaotic time that people wish they could escape. According to a sociological research study in recent years, up to 65% of young adults reported feeling immense pressure and anxiety during the Lunar New Year. Why? Because they felt obligated to spend their precious time visiting bosses, networking, or entertaining business partners out of duty instead of spending genuine, relaxing time reconnecting with their actual family. Even today, when the word ritual is mentioned, many modern people immediately associate it with rigid constraints, boring formalities, or suffocating religious coercion. But if we could only humble ourselves to learn from the wolves and actively create daily rituals that truly come from the heart, our entire societal dynamic would dramatically change. A ritual doesn't need to be a grand, expensive, or exhausting production. There is no need to host dozens of people for a stressful holiday banquet just for the sake of duty and saving face. We can start by simply reclaiming our evenings. Imagine a whole evening where the entire family actually sits together in the living room, casually chatting and sharing intimate stories from their day or the past year. Imagine a space where we listen to each other with full, undivided presence, completely free of judgment. A space without the neurotic need to constantly snap pictures of our food or jostle through massive, sweaty crowds during spring festivities just to post fabricated proof of our happiness on social media. We have the power to take the time to truly live in the present moment with our loved ones. We can choose to cherish the simple, nourishing meals we share each day. We must stop the modern tragedy of letting everyone retreat to sit in their own isolated corner, mindlessly staring at their glowing phone screens while eating their bowl of rice in silence. Numerous long-term sociological and psychological studies have definitively shown that families who deliberately maintain the habit of eating dinner together without electronic distractions, at least for times a week, experience incredible benefits. They have a 30% lower divorce rate, and their developing children experience 40% fewer psychological problems, including anxiety and depression. Let us make the conscious choice to sit down together. Let us slowly savor each flavor prepared by the hands of our loved ones. Genuinely feel the care and love present in every single dish, and allow ourselves to realize that right here, right now, we are loved, we are nurtured, and we are truly complete. From that simple moment of presence, a genuine, powerful feeling of gratitude will naturally well up from the very depths of your being. It is an incredibly subtle, yet enduring and transformative emotion that has the power to heal and nurture any broken relationship. These are the truly simple, wolf-like rituals that touch our deepest human emotions, making people love harder and connect more deeply. In fact, a ritual never needs to be elaborate or expensive. It just needs to be sincere, practiced consistently, and designed to awaken a profound sense of belonging and harmony within our souls. Just as the profound message in so many great stories tells us, when life demands a firm answer regarding what truly matters, it always reveals that real happiness doesn't lie in the accumulation of material things, but rather entirely in the fleeting, beautiful moments we genuinely share with each other. Another transformative area where we can learn immensely from wolves is in the realm of leadership skills. For decades, human society has operated under a massive, culturally reinforced misconception about how animal hierarchies work. We falsely believed that animals aggressively competed for leadership positions, the coveted alpha role, solely through violence and intimidation to gain absolute power and the exclusive right to mate. This idea birthed the toxic concept of the alpha male in human corporate and social culture. However, modern behavioral scientists have realized that this aggressive observation is actually only true for artificial wolf packs that have been forced together in captivity. The stressed, fighting wolves observed in a zoo absolutely do not reflect the true, balanced nature of wolves living free in the wild. When wild animals are trapped in cages, faced with highly limited space, where natural resources become artificially scarce and there is no room to escape conflict, the wolves are literally forced to become aggressive and violent toward one another, just to survive the psychological torture of captivity. This unnatural environment creates a rigid, brutal hierarchy where the strongest and most vicious simply seize power through fear. This dynamic is painfully similar to the toxic big fish eats little fish model that humans so often apply in our modern, hyper-competitive, high-stress corporate survival environments. However, when we observe actual wolves thriving in the vast, open wild, the reality of leadership is breathtakingly different. In the wild, the true alpha wolf is not necessarily the biggest, the loudest, or the most physically aggressive one. Conversely, the strongest and most capable animal usually takes on the heavy responsibility of leading the way through deep snow, breaking the trail to make it easier for the old and the young, and carrying the heaviest loads for the pack. They do this to actively conserve the strength of the entire group. Among wild wolves, leadership is rarely held entirely by a single, dictatorial male wolf. Instead, a wolf pack is typically led by a deeply loyal, highly experienced, and exceptionally responsible pair, the alpha male and the alpha female, together as equals. They lead the entire pack, and crucially, especially when it comes to making the final life or death decisions for the group, the male alpha almost always defers to and listens to the female wolf. Why is this the case? The female aspect of the wolf's personality provides a quiet, highly intuitive, and decisive approach to complex problem solving. Her decisions are not clouded by a blinding, ego-driven desire for conquest or dominance. Instead, she possesses a full, empathetic capacity for tolerance and long-term strategic survival. Interestingly, this biological dynamic is also evidenced by the fact that human handlers and researchers often find that wild wolves naturally get along better with women, sensing that women generally share these similar, non-threatening, intuitive traits. In the wild, a wolf does not seize power. It earns the deep trust and unwavering respect of its pack to assume the heavy responsibilities of leadership. It achieves this only when it consistently demonstrates to core, unbreakable qualities, supreme courage, and boundless tolerance. First and foremost, being an alpha requires immense courage, but this courage is never reckless. It must be intimately coupled with deep wisdom to uphold the absolute core principle of the pack: altruism. Every decision the alpha makes must be strictly for the ultimate benefit and survival of all members, not just for their own glory. Only with such calculated courage, combined with a selfless mind and a noble spirit, can the alpha wolf make the incredibly difficult, decisive choices required in dangerous, life-threatening situations. A true leader knows exactly when to bravely move forward and attack, but, more importantly, they possess the emotional control to let go of greed and immediately stop at the right time. There's a famous account of a pack of wolves that relentlessly chased a large deer all the way to the treacherous edge of a steep cliff. The deer, out of desperate options, stood its ground and provoked the pack, clearly showing it was willing to fight or jump into the fatal ravine, taking its attackers down with it. If the wolves had succumbed to the blinding greed of the hunt and become aggressive too quickly, they would have pursued it relentlessly over the edge to their deaths. But the alpha male, assessing the situation with crystal clear wisdom, immediately stopped in his tracks. He gave a firm signal for the entire hunt to end right then and there, deeply understanding that continuing this ego-driven pursuit could put the lives of his entire pack in severe danger. This critical decision perfectly reflects the highly sophisticated, emotionally intelligent leadership thinking of the alpha wolf, a leader who will always, without fail, put the safety and well-being of the group far above his own personal ego or desire for a trophy. Next comes the vital trait of tolerance. In human corporate structures, tolerance and empathy are often grossly underestimated and wrongly viewed as weaknesses in leadership roles. But the wolves prove that tolerance is actually the very root of sustainability and long-term loyalty. The true alpha wolf's tolerance manifests itself beautifully in three distinct aspects. First, it applies directly to the daily treatment of the pack members. The alpha wolf always treats the weaker or younger members with a generous, giving heart. Consider the legendary story of Super Wolf 21, one of the most famous wolves ever studied in Yellowstone. Wolf 21 was a massive, undefeated leader possessing top-level physical power and absolute authority. But despite his intimidating size, Wolf 21 was incredibly gentle and playful with his family. After every single successful, exhausting hunt, instead of aggressively claiming the best meat for himself as a human dictator might, he always stepped back. He patiently let the pups, the elders, and the other members of the family eat their fill and enjoy their meal first, while he quietly lay down in the snow to rest and keep watch. This profound, consistent selflessness is exactly why all the members of his pack deeply loved, fiercely protected, and willingly respected Wolf 21 until the day he died. The second aspect of this tolerance involves the highly intelligent way wolves resolve internal conflicts. When inevitable disagreements occur within the ranks, the true alpha wolf does not immediately resort to abusing its physical power or using brute force to quickly quell the rebellion. Instead, it utilizes high emotional intelligence to pause, listen to the posturing, understand the root of the frustration, and actively de-escalate the stress through submissive gestures or confident calmness. Leading with deep empathy is the true art of the wolf. The third aspect applies to their interactions with rivals. It is actually very rare for a true alpha wolf to ruthlessly kill a defeated enemy from another pack. If a fierce battle occurs and the opponent finally submits, rolling over to accept defeat, the victorious alpha wolf will almost always step back and let them go alive. For wolves, the ultimate victory lies not in the bloody elimination or total destruction of their competitors, but rather in the vital ability to establish boundaries, maintain order, and restore ecological balance. It is precisely because of these magnificent, restrained qualities that the alpha wolf effortlessly builds its own unshakable reputation and commands absolute loyalty. The author once shared a profound personal experience from when she first started working as a wilderness tour guide at Yellowstone National Park. In her early, inexperienced days, wanting to be liked and democratic, she would often start the day by asking the large group of tourists where they wanted to go and what they wanted to see. Inevitably and immediately, the diverse group would start arguing, complaining, and causing chaos, with everyone shouting different demands. Realizing this was failing, she looked to the wolves for a lesson and radically changed her approach. The next day, she stepped to the front of the group and spoke with calm, unwavering authority. She confidently introduced the tour and readily set up the most suitable, expertly planned itinerary for the visitors. She stood tall and said, "I'm your expert guide. I know the complex terrain of this area very well. I know where the dangers are, and this is the specific route I highly recommend for your safety and enjoyment." From that exact moment on, the chaotic dynamic vanished and everything went perfectly smoothly. The tourists instantly relaxed. They trusted her, respected her boundaries, and subsequently sought her advice frequently throughout the trip. That is the ultimate leadership lesson she learned directly from observing the alpha wolf. Establishing true credibility and commanding a room isn't about wielding tyrannical power or yelling the loudest. It is about projecting quiet confidence, demonstrating moral courage, and possessing the empathetic ability to guide others, so that everyone is given a secure environment to thrive. Furthermore, We must learn from the wolf how to truly live well and peacefully in the present moment. What does it actually mean to live well in the present? So many humans spend millions of dollars on therapy, retreats, and books trying to figure this out. Perhaps we can find the ultimate inspiration for a grounded life by simply learning about the daily survival habits of wolves. Firstly, wolves always make it absolutely clear what they want to say. There is no deceit in the wild. Wolves possess a highly complex, wide-ranging array of communication techniques. Scientific statistics show that wolf howls, barks, and whines can be categorized into at least 21 distinctly different types of vocalizations. But the most important takeaway is that all their emotional and tactical expressions are presented clearly, directly, and simply. In stark contrast, we humans often get caught in a web of miserable dilemmas because our use of language is too complex, layered with ego, and steeped in fear. We make it nearly impossible to simply express the raw truth and state what we actually want to say directly. Moreover, instead of seeking resolution, most people simply want to vent their unmanaged emotions and showcase their wounded individuality through explosive anger, passive-aggressive complaints, bitter reproach, and endless blame. For wolves, life is beautifully straightforward. When they are happy, they wag their tails and play. When they are unhappy or threatened, they growl and establish a boundary. When they agree to hunt, they run together. When they disagree, they posture and resolve it. They don't utilize exhausting, manipulative human phrases like, "well, it depends," or "why are you always acting like that?" or "I'm fine," when they are clearly furious. Therefore, vital information and emotional states are always transmitted very accurately and immediately between members of the pack, leaving no room for festering resentment. First and foremost, adopting this level of radical honesty is the absolute key to living authentically in the present. We must learn to strip away our ego and express our true thoughts with the straightforward grace of a wolf. Secondly, wild wolves possess an inherent ecological wisdom. They always know exactly when enough is enough. Despite the terrifying myths of them being bloodthirsty monsters, wolves only ever hunt exactly what is needed for their family to survive the harsh winter. And they absolutely do not slaughter indiscriminately for sport or greed. Wolves abhor waste. They do not waste the precious resources of the forest, and they make full, respectful use of the available food they secure. For example, we can observe this in their fascinating, cooperative relationship with ravens and crows, a dynamic where they literally share the spoils of the hunt. They are indeed a very highly intelligent, socially evolved species. The crow flies high in the sky, acting as an aerial scout. When danger, such as a human hunter or a larger predator, is detected from above, the crow will immediately call out to alert the wolf pack. When the crows spot a carcass that might be tainted or poisonous, they will warn the wolves to stay away. Conversely, when the freezing weather makes the thick hide of a fallen animal impossible for a small crow's beak to penetrate, the highly intelligent bird will literally fly off to find and call a wolf to the scene. The wolf will use its massive jaw strength to tear the hide open. And here's the most beautiful part: when sharing this food, the hungry wolves never selfishly gorge themselves until they are completely full, before leaving the scraps for the crows. Instead, they generously leave the carcass open, allowing the birds to stand right there and eat harmoniously alongside them. The connection between the clever crow and the powerful wolf has, over millennia, transcended a mere cold, biological symbiotic relationship for survival. It has evolved into a genuinely beautiful interspecies friendship. The author once witnessed a scene in the freezing wilderness. that perfectly encapsulates this deep bond. She watched the lone wolf standing silently beside the frozen carcass of a crow for a very long time. The wolf's body language looked incredibly solemn and deeply sad. Gently, the wolf picked up the fragile body of its feathered friend in its massive jaws and carried it around for a while, seemingly unsure of what to do. It then carefully brought the bird to the snowy riverbank and softly dropped it into the icy, flowing water. The river, however, was just about to freeze solid over the rocks. The wolf clearly intended to bury its friend safely in the water, but as soon as the bird hit the freezing surface and bobbed against the ice, the wolf visibly felt uneasy. It immediately plunged its entire head into the freezing water to retrieve the body, carefully carrying the bird back up the bank. The wolf then wandered around the frozen landscape until it finally found a suitable, deep snow cave sheltered beneath the roots of a great tree. With great care, the powerful predator dug into the snow cave, gently placed the body of the crow inside, and meticulously covered it with fresh snow to protect it from scavengers. In its silent, profound grief at parting, the wild wolf had tenderly escorted its small, feathered friend to a dignified final resting place. It is a breathtakingly heartwarming, poetic story about the depth of emotion and true friendship between a wolf and a crow. Now, some cynics and farmers might argue that this romantic view is false, claiming that ferocious wolves can and will indiscriminately kill entire flocks of domestic sheep in a single night, proving they are gluttonous creatures that do not know when to stop. But that argument completely misses the ecological context and does not paint a complete picture of wolf psychology. The author once sat down to speak with an experienced, highly observant sheep herder in the American West and asked him how he truly felt about the wild wolves occasionally eating his sheep. Surprisingly, instead of expressing boiling hatred for the predators, the wise sheep herder said he actually felt deeply remorseful. He stated that when a wolf got his sheep, he felt he had fundamentally failed and not fulfilled his own responsibility as a shepherd to properly protect the flock he was entrusted with. He didn't blindly blame the wolf, because he possessed the wisdom to understand that hunting was simply a wolf's natural, biological instinct. The scientific reason wolves sometimes kill so many domestic sheep in one frenzy is not out of malice, but because domesticated sheep have had all their natural defenses bred out of them and are unnaturally trapped, making them overwhelmingly vulnerable to attack. Out in the vast wilderness, when hunting a herd of wild, fast, and dangerous elk or deer, the wolf pack expends massive energy and only kills one single animal, just exactly enough to provide a meal for the family, because the rest of the herd successfully escapes. But once a predator gets inside a fenced-in, claustrophobic sheep pen, where the panicked animals cannot run away and simply bounce off the walls, the wolf's hardwired predatory instincts are unnaturally and continuously triggered by the chaotic movement. The wolves bite and kill them one by one simply because the sheep are trapped and far too easy to kill. Yet, even after this instinctual frenzy, when the dust settles, the wolves will still only take one or two carcasses with them to eat and leave the rest, proving their intent was never to consume the whole flock out of gluttony. However, if humans can learn to work with nature and protect their own livestock better, they might find that wolves will actually help humans protect their land. For example, one innovative sheep farmer decided to install a non-lethal, deterrent electric fence completely around his vast sheep pen. Shortly after, a territorial alpha wolf approached the pen, touched the wire, and was mildly electrocuted. Learning that the fence was a boundary not to be crossed, that highly intelligent wolf did something remarkable. It established its own pack's permanent territory, just outside the perimeter of the farmer's electric fence. Because wolves are fiercely territorial and will brutally drive away any rival predators, this specific wolf pack inadvertently created a massive, natural buffer zone, actively keeping all other rogue wolves, coyotes, and predators far away from the farm. Thus, by simply respecting boundaries, this wild wolf unintentionally became the ultimate loyal protector of the farmer's flock of sheep. When you truly study them, you realize wolves are absolutely not as mindlessly greedy and senselessly ferocious as many fearful people think. On the contrary, knowing exactly when enough is enough, maintaining ecological balance, and sharing resources with others is the profound lesson wolves teach us about how to live peacefully and sustainably in the present moment. Thirdly, and perhaps most importantly for our mental health, wolves never, ever let anxiety about the future or regrets about the past consume the reality of their present moment. Throughout the book, the author repeatedly poses a deeply thought-provoking question, a powerful philosophical theme running like a golden thread throughout the entire narrative. If you were a wolf right now, what would you do? To illustrate this, she shares a personal story of immense human frustration. On one specific occasion, she was scheduled to fly on a critical, highly anticipated trip from Germany all the way to the United States. However, unfortunately, the global weather was highly unstable that day and a massive, unexpected volcanic eruption occurred in Iceland, sending ash into the sky and causing absolutely all international flights across the continent to be abruptly cancelled. For the author, the sudden cancellation was a catastrophe. It completely and utterly disrupted all the complex, expensive plans, meetings, and itineraries she had been painstakingly preparing for the past 6 months. Standing in the crowded, chaotic airport terminal, she was consumed by human emotions. She felt extremely angry, deeply disappointed, incredibly stressed about the lost money, and bitterly resentful toward a situation she could not control. Her mind spiraled into a dark place of anxiety. But then, as she sat on her luggage, taking a deep breath and forcing herself to calm down, that golden question suddenly arose in her frantic mind. If I were a wild wolf facing a sudden obstacle right now, what would I do? This simple question instantly transported her back to the freezing wilderness, reminding her of the countless days when she quietly observed the wolves. In all her years in the wild, she realized she had never, ever seen a wolf throw a tantrum, act resentful, become furious, or be paralyzed by fearful anxiety, even when its most desperate, exhausting hunt for food completely failed. And you must understand the stakes. Did you know that when a pack of wolves expends massive amounts of calories, chasing prey through deep snow and ultimately fails to secure a kill, it doesn't just mean a minor inconvenience? It means that all 7 members of their family, including the fragile cubs, will go to sleep shivering and starving that night. It is a true matter of life and death. However, despite these crushing stakes, the wolves are never consumed by neurotic worry. When the prey escapes, they don't panic, they don't blame each other, and they don't howl at the sky in unfair resentment. Instead, accepting the reality of the moment, they simply find a quiet place, lie down in the snow to rest, and allow their exhausted bodies to seamlessly blend into the freezing ground in absolute silence. They conserve their energy, they let the failure go, and they know that tomorrow, when the sun rises, they will simply wake up and try again. Reflecting on that profound truth in the middle of the airport helped the author instantly release a massive psychological burden. She thought to herself, If I were a wolf and the flight was cancelled due to a force of nature, I simply wouldn't go. I wouldn't fight the volcano. I would accept the reality, conserve my energy, and simply go home to do other productive things. By shifting her perspective to that of a wolf, she immediately felt an overwhelming wave of relief wash over her. She picked up her bags, left the stressful airport behind, went back to her quiet house, and peacefully began to focus on the things she actually had control over, such as sitting down and writing the very chapters of this incredible book. After reading this masterpiece, I find myself often thinking deeply about that exact question, and I offer it to you now as vital advice for your own life. Have we humans, with our remarkably evolved, highly complex neocortexes, actually trapped ourselves in a miserable, invisible glass cage of endless overanalysis, chronic anxiety, and depression? We worry about yesterday, we dread tomorrow, and we completely miss today. Meanwhile, out in the harsh, unforgiving elements, the wild wolves live perfectly according to the purest principle of survival, without the toxic desire for possessing or controlling everything. They fight wholeheartedly, fiercely, and bravely for their survival every single day, but they never give up easily when faced with failure. They love their family and their community with a primal, intense, and completely selfless instinct. And through it all, they silently and gracefully harmonize with the life-giving source of energy from Mother Earth, grounding themselves like the deep, ancient roots of a great tree. Perhaps our relentless technological and societal progress has ironically made us forget a fundamental truth. Perhaps we have forgotten that sometimes the absolute highest form of true wisdom lies in the simple ability to cleanse ourselves of all our artificial, societal complexes and our exhausting, negative thinking energies. True enlightenment might just be returning to the quiet, unburdened purity of our original, wild nature. In this unpredictable life, we will inevitably encounter painful misunderstandings, harsh criticism from others, devastating professional failures, or incredibly frustrating moments when our grandest plans simply do not go as we hoped. There will be dark days when we are intensely disappointed and not at all satisfied with ourselves. At heavy times like these, when your mind is racing and your heart is heavy, you might want to pause, take a deep breath, and quietly ask yourself, what would I do right now if I were a wolf? The wolf wouldn't hesitate in self-pity. The wolf wouldn't harbor too many agonizing, complicated thoughts or drown in a sea of emotional anguish. The wolf would simply accept the reality of the moment, find a patch of sunlight, and live happily and peacefully in the present second, resting its mind, and ultimately trying its absolute best to simply continue living, driven forward by an unconditional love for its pack. This is perhaps the absolute most valuable, life-altering lesson that the wolves can teach our anxious human hearts. It is a profound, ancient lesson about the sheer, undeniable purity of existence. Thank you so incredibly much for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to today's video and explore these deep philosophies with us. We truly hope these insights bring a sense of peace and clarity to your life. If you found this video helpful, inspiring, or comforting, please do an act of kindness and share it with friends, family, or anyone else who might be carrying a heavy burden and truly need to hear this grounding message today. And please, don't let this be the end of our journey together. We invite you to join our growing family of mindful learners. Don't forget to give this video a like to help us spread this positivity. Absolutely smash that subscribe button to join the Improved Version channel. And be sure to turn on the notification bell so you're always the very first to watch our latest, deeply researched videos every single week. Your support means the world to us and allows us to keep bringing you this valuable content. Thank you once again for your time, your presence, and your willingness to grow. We look forward to seeing you in the next videos. Until then, stay grounded, stay present, and we wish you absolutely all the best on your beautiful journey of life.